Hello, hello. Sorry we're like 3 minutes late, but uh when I say we're busy, that's not an excuse. We are busy, folks. So you'll notice that I'm wearing a hat because I'm trying to keep the shine down for you folks. So here we are. No pun intended, right? So here we are. Episode 3. So tonight we're talking about like our kids and sleep patterns, maybe no sleep at all. uh, so we have to offer a disclaimer here. So, very first thing, we are not professionals in child psychology or anything like that, but all we're doing is offering our opinion and what works best for us. And just telling you that there are options. There are many different ways to get things uh, to work, and there's just a lot of different things out there. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of ways to do things, and people all have their own opinion, right?
Yep.
And so we understand what opinions are and uh, how everybody has one, and things of that nature. But what I want you to understand is when we became parents for the first time, we thought we were ready. Uh, so we really thought we were ready, but we really didn't know what we were in for. So when we had baby number one, we were still kind of young, and I say kind of young because nowadays kids are born while the parents are still late teenagers, and we were in our early 20s when we had our first child. So actually,
More mid 20s.
mid 20s
Mid
actually.
20s.
And yeah, I'm old. My mind is slipping. So uh, what we want to tell you is that there's a lot of options out there as far as like sleep training that some people do, and there are uh, different like co-sleeping arrangements and things like that. So again, we're just here to offer the things that have worked for us. So Tiffany,
Yes.
let's get started.
Hey.
So let's talk about how the sleeping arrangements went with our first child. And normally, so stereotypically, we can say that the dad gets more sleep than the mom.
No, not stereotypically. For sure. 100%. For sure.
So, and it's not that the dad is not attached or he's detached or he's not involved or anything like that. But it's just kind of natural that the dad just falls asleep. And as soon as my head hits a pillow, I'm out. And uh, being a first time dad, and my energy level dropped super fast. So I really don't know how she did it because uh, I'm gonna let you have it. You have to explain what happened with baby number one. And
It's going to make you look like a bad parent.
no, it doesn't make me look like a bad parent. It makes us realize that people are people. We're all human, and we don't do the best with what we have all the
Correct.
time. We make mistakes and we learn from them. So take it away.
Baby number one, Jacob. Okay,
Let
so
me
he
move you
was
around a little bit
not
here.
a great sleeper. Actually, I don't think he really slept through the night until he was like 5, maybe a couple times in between. So we tried the whole putting him in his own bed, letting him cry it out. We would cry it out. Terrible idea. So, anyways, the story he's talking about, I got him out of his bed in the middle of the night, or it was early morning. It was daylight.
It was very early
It was
morning
very
because he
early
did
morning
not sleep at all.
that night. Yeah.
How long? Tell him.
At
How
least 6
long?
months. The first we tried it 6 months.
Yeah.
About, yeah, making him sleep in his own bed.
You want to talk about a fight?
Yeah. So, anyways, the story. Okay. So he sorry. I got him out of his bed. He was hungry. I went to warm up a bottle. At this point, I was done with nursing with baby number one. So I was warming up a bottle for him. And I told Bobby, I said, look, I'm laying him right next to you, which is in the middle of our bed. Okay. He can't even roll over at this point. He
Okay,
couldn't
so
roll over.
before you go any further, in my defense, I was finally asleep for a few minutes. And I mean, bloodshot eyes, worn out. And I'm not saying that I was more tired than she was, but there is a struggle between the father and the mother and who competes to try to get some sleep. So it's tough. It's very, very tough because in my mind, I had to have some sleep because I was driving somebody else's vehicle to work. And, you know, I had to make sure that I got enough sleep to be able to drive safely to and from work. And this was like within the time that I think you were still off work, weren't you?
Yeah.
So
Probably,
she was able to be with him all day, and that's not giving me an easy out. It's not saying that she got to sleep during the day while I was gone, because I'm telling you, this child did not sleep day or night.
He didn't even take naps, but you gotta let me finish my
Okay,
story.
okay.
Okay, so I take Jacob and I lay him next to Bobby and I said, hey, here's Jacob. I have to go fix a bottle. And in all reality, Bobby's alarm had probably already gone off at this point, because I'm not lying to you. This man alarm will go off every 5 minutes for an hour before I push him out of bed. That's a totally different story. But he acknowledged me. Okay, puts his arm around Jacob. I no longer walk down the hall and grab the bottle and hear a
boom.
Yeah.
Not just a thud. Boom. I mean, this child had never even rolled over yet, and somehow made it from next to me off the end of the bed.
Not the side of the bed, the end of the bed. And I knew it was just like, I guess, a mother's instinct.
To the hardwood floor.
I never even ran back there at first, and just out of me in some crazy scream that I didn't know I had in me, Jacob!
So, let me tell you, I'm sure most of you have seen the movie Home Alone, where the power goes out and the next morning they're supposed to be leaving to get on a plane, and they jump out of bed. Wait a second! And it was that moment that I was dead to the world. I think I had 2 minutes of sleep and I was already in deep sleep. I was out. And all of a sudden, when I heard Jacob, buddy, like, I mean, I bet you the windows rattled in our house, because this was Mama Bear coming after the cub. And like, I sat up like somebody hit me with some kind of electric cattle probe or something. I was just like, wham! I was like, oh my gosh. And like, she was in there, I think, before he bounced. Like, I don't know how Mama did it, but as soon as the boom hit, she was there. I don't know if she ran through the walls, how she got from the kitchen to the bedroom that quickly, but the scream of her, and yes, he cried, but I'm here to tell you that he is fine. He's perfectly fine. We were distraught because we thought, oh my gosh, something's wrong with our baby boy. He just fell off and hit his head on the hardwood floor, but he was perfectly fine. Not even a red mark. It obviously it scared him and scared us to death. I think it scared us more than it scared him. But we were zombies.
Yes. At this point, I was so tired. Like, my thing has always been, at night I have to go take a hot bath before I go to bed. It's just my time alone. It's my thing. And Bobby comes in there. Jacob was probably close to 6 months old, because I took too long and I was smooth asleep in the bathtub.
Yeah.
Gone. Like,
out cold in the bathtub.
Yeah. So at 6 months, we're like, okay, we got to change. Something else has got to give. They advise you not to sleep with your baby. So I bought a co-sleeper. So it's safe for, to be in your bed. So We put him in this, and oh my word, he started sleeping a little better.
Yeah,
Actually, a lot better, but
a
still
lot
not all
better.
through the night.
A lot better. So here's our advice, that our advice, our opinion, our personal opinion for any new parent out there, that you may be trying to do the sleep training and you may be trying to make your child independent, where they will sleep in their bed like a perfect little angel.
We did have one of those. We'll get to it in a minute.
And that's not always the case. That doesn't work for every child. Let me tell you, children are like snowflakes. Every single one of them rascals are different. And so the co-sleeper is like a little bed that sits in your bed, and it's got like bumpers around it, like when you go bowling and you have the bumpers on the lanes. So it keeps the parent from rolling over on the kid, but it keeps the kid from rolling over and rolling off the bed, because we didn't want that round two.
Right.
So that worked for us, and we turned into human beings again.
Right.
We were able to get sleep. We were able to function during the day. We were, and I'm telling you, that strain is a strain on everything. It makes it tough at work. It makes it tough at home. It makes it tough just dealing with people in general. And let me tell you, it's already tough when, like,
first kid is tough anyway.
Yes.
First kid is tough.
First kid is tough. So what helped us a lot, and like I said, every child is different, but what helped us a lot was we were blessed to be able to spend 3 years together, married, before we had children. And that's not always the case. Things happen, surprises happen. And so if you have a child within the first year of marriage, that makes things very hard, because you're already really trying to get to know your spouse. And now you have a child in the middle of all this stuff. And you throw variables in there that nobody warned you about. So, baby number 2.
She mostly slept in her bed. Mostly.
Most
Not
of the
always.
time.
Occasionally she wanted to come to our bed, but I could just give her a bottle, which is another thing they tell you don't do. I would just sneak it away in rubber gums with a wet rag, so that way I wouldn't have to worry about rotting her teeth out or whatever. But she would ask to go to bed most of the time. Lay her down, and she was in her own bed.
She had colic.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, we tried everything. We didn't know it was colic, and this baby screamed. She hated a car seat.
Yes.
We tried everything, and some wise things from my grandmother. She said, "Here, try this." We took a warm rag and put it in a Ziploc bag so that it wouldn't get her clothes wet, but it was just warm enough that we could put that warm rag against her belly and hold her against us and try to help those stomach muscles relax. And that was the only thing that brought relief. And we were about to pull our hair out. You want to talk about something crazy. And, there's some things that we just weren't told. We weren't warned about. And so Allie, she did great sleeping in her own room. And so
actually, when she slept in our bed, it was because Daddy needed snuggle. Sometimes, like, we're a snuggle family, and sometimes
tell all my secrets.
After he works a lot, and he, especially then he was working more hours and didn't always see the kids, so he's like, "Hey, I just need to snuggle my babies tonight."
Right, and so I'm just naturally just physical touch. I like somebody sitting next to me, especially this pretty thing here. I like to be touched. I like to just be next to somebody, to know that I have a person next to me. And so Allie, she would come into our bed, and so I guess she was about 2.5, 3.
She was probably 2.5.
She was potty trained. Okay.
For a while, like by 2, she was completely potty trained.
Yeah. So, like, there are often times that we'd go to sleep, and then I'd wake up the next morning and go, "Oh," like somebody's next to me, and realized that one of the kids had snuck into our room during the night and was laying next to me. And so I woke up, I think it was like, 4 o'clock in the morning, and my alarm hadn't gone off yet. I was actually sleeping good, and I woke up and I was wringing wet, and I was like, oh my gosh, am I sweating? Am I sweating this bad? And I got to checking, like, my shirt's not really wet. Oh my gosh. And I started to feel my shorts, and I was like, my shorts are soaked. Can you imagine being 25, 26 years old and having to explain to your wife that you just peed the bed? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to go through this conversation. I think I peed the bed. I don't remember having this dream that, that I was going to the bathroom and didn't get up and go. But I was so freaked out. I was like, oh my gosh, I got to tell my wife. And then about that time, I noticed that there was a little girl. Allie was sleeping next to me, and she was uphill. Of course, I weighed a little more than her, so I was down lower in the bed. And when I reached over to touch her clothes, she was soaked. And I was like, oh my God, I'm relieved. It's not my pee. But then the terror set in. I'm not wearing my own pee. I'm wearing somebody else's. Like, oh my gosh, I've been peed on. And then that wakes Tiffany up, and we have to strip the bed and shower and clean the kid up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody else peed on me. So, so I'm telling you, there are some wild adventures of having kids, being new parents, and trying to figure this stuff out. Because whatever worked for your parents may not necessarily work for you. The things that we were told and all the things that we were warned about, like, didn't necessarily happen for us. We had totally new experiences for our kids that our parents may not have even thought about. And so, like, it's one thing for a kid to pee their own bed, but when they pee yours and you're sleeping in it, that's a whole different ball game. You wake up in an entirely different mood.
Okay, kid number 3.
So kid number 3,
He was
he
okay. Sweet.
He is completely different than the first 2. So real quickly, backtracking to Jacob.
Jacob, by the way, is 15 and still doesn't sleep many hours.
Right.
He'll go to bed at midnight and be up early.
He can sleep 4 hours a day and be perfectly fine. So with Jacob, all babies being different, we were remodeling our house. Excuse me. So for the first year of his life, there were no cabinet doors in the kitchen. Like, they were in the shop, and we were trying to do everything else. And me mainly being the breadwinner, we're working on diapers and formula and everything that comes along with a baby with not much money to work with. And so the renovations and stuff took longer. So our cabinet doors stayed in the shop waiting to be sanded and painted for a year. Mm-hmm. And this child never once stuck his hand in the cabinet. It was normal for them to be there, and he never once dug into anything he wasn't supposed to. But baby number 2 was a little different. Baby number 3 was kind of into more things.
Not a whole lot, though.
And so.
And number 3, he slept in our bed.
He slept in our bed.
On your side of the bed.
On my side of the bed. And that was cool for me because I had bonding time, where he and I spent some time close. And, that's one good thing about the whole co-sleeping situation is there's good time for bonding. And that's some things that you really just can't get anywhere else or in any other situation because the way it works. Now, there are plenty of studies out there that say that the child being in their own bed uh, they grow up, they do well, they do very well, being independent and making it through life. There's also, on the flip side of that, there are also plenty of studies that say that the child that sleeps in the parent's bedroom, whether it's in a bassinet next to the bed or a playpen, whatever works for you, that there are studies that say that those children do well in life, and they're not just overly dependent, and they don't have separation anxiety, things like that. But so Judah was way different. And what are some of the problems that we ran into with Judah? Like some of the surprises. I'm not going to say problems, but they were surprises.
I don't really know any surprises with Judah.
So
like he was just an easy baby.
He was very easy.
He's always like being number 3. You wouldn't think so, but he's still, even to this day, he's 7 and will occupy himself all day with something.
Yeah, and for those of you that that have one child, I'm not. There's a saying out there: if you only have one child, you're not a parent, because if something happens, you know who did it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you have 3 children and somebody does something, you got to play Perry Mason or Columbo and try to figure out who done it. But there is a saying that says an only child is a blessing because one child plays well together. But Judah, even though he had an older brother and an older sister, he chose to play by himself, and he still does to this day. He'll play with other kids and he has a great time, but there's sometimes where he's like, no, leave me alone. And he just does perfectly fine playing by himself. He'll make noises, and he was the loud kid. The other 2 were pretty calm most of the time, but you could be sitting and watching TV, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just you're like, whoa. If you had a drink in your hand, you'd wear it, because he would just scream or yell all of a sudden, because his imagination was running so wild that just like everything is quiet and just bam, explosions happen, and you think, oh my God, what happened? But again, he was completely different, but he was like the calmest. I guess I would say that he was the easiest baby.
Yeah,
for sure. And there really, I don't remember if there was really any surprises with him, but I will tell you that baby number 1, we have thousands of pictures of baby number 1. How many pictures we have of baby number 2?
A few less.
A few less. How many pictures we have of baby number 3?
A lot.
A lot less. It's not that we love him any less, but it's just like by the time baby 3 came, we're just like, oh, we're done with pictures.
I mean, technically, they all pretty much look alike, so we can just be like, hey, this is you.
This is you. Right?
And
then
baby number 4.
That was a surprise all in itself.
Yeah.
So
did we tell them how I told you? I think we did in my video.
Yeah, I believe we did. I woke up one morning and found that little stick in the bathroom and was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, we did.
And so baby number 4 came along, and let me tell you,
he's a whole new world, whole new experience in every way.
Gosh, for like, he's almost 3, but for the first 2 years solid, up until his 2nd birthday, I nicknamed him Stuff.
Yeah.
Because he was into stuff.
Everything.
Every time.
We had one of those bouncy things at our other house. We had the little jumperoo thing that you put on the door. And there was a bookshelf. Like, he couldn't just reach out and touch it, but he was smart enough that he would use his foot and bounce his little way over there and grab a book off, drop it in the floor, and then he'd bounce back until all the books were off the shelf. He
would clean off the bookshelf. And he loved that little jumperoo thing. I mean, I still can hear that spring in my mind. Just that whole spring just bouncing.
For hours, he would say
that kid should be able to jump like 4 or 5 foot high as long as he jumped in that thing. And there were times that he would just jump until he fell asleep. He would get a little cranky. We'd take him out laying down. But baby number 4 wow, that kid was into everything. And now he is one of a kind. He is completely different from the other three.
But sleep,
And
we got to tell about sleep first.
and so he's still sleeping in our bed.
He is, but he did tell me the other day that he was ready for his own bed. But he sleeps on my side, so it doesn't really affect you.
Yeah, so
I nursed him. He never got a bottle.
Yeah.
Once I was in the hospital, had surgery. He had a bottle that one time, but so I guess that's why he's still a daddy's boy, but when it's sleepy time, he wants mom.
yeah, so most of the time he sleeps on her side. And there's times that I know that when she's pretty tired and she needs a night off.
I
So
need
I'm
a
like,
night without feet in my throat.
yeah. So I'm like, hey, babe, you want me to sleep in the middle? You can sleep over here. You're directly by the fan. You can sleep, be cool, be comfortable, and I'll take the kung fu kid all night long. So if I can usually plan out my day, and I know that the next day is not going to be that tough, then we'll switch it up because she will be like, oh, I'll wake up with feet in my throat every night. And this kid will flip flop. I never understood how, you know, at what point do we grow out of the flip flop in our bed where we start on the pillow with our head on the pillow and we wake up the next morning with our head at the foot of the bed? When does that change? Because this child will be all over the place. And we have a king size bed, so there's plenty of room. But this child takes up just over half.
Yeah.
He has to have 25 stuffed animals. And he, like, every night he's like, oh, I need that to sleep with. It's like, no, buddy, you've got enough. And so he flips and flops and he will headbutt, he will kick, and you'll be headbutted in the nose 1 second, and as soon as you grab your nose and say ow, there's a foot in your throat. I don't know what this child is doing or who he's fighting in his sleep, but
he's Hulk.
Yeah,
always.
And he's always Hulk. So this kid is fighting in his sleep. He's Hulk smash all the time. This kid always has to wear a Hulk costume or a Spider-Man costume, and like every day it's something. So he keeps everything really kind of interesting because the other three, they're getting older now to where they're into their personality, they're into their niche and everything like that. They've got everything kind of squared away where you don't get these crazy surprises. But I told you number 3 was kind of loud. What about number 4?
No, number 4 is what's a better word than loud?
Extreme.
Okay.
Extremely loud.
He's extremely loud all the time. There is no volume button with him. It's wide open or sleep.
But he sleeps. He sleeps better, other than the
squirming. It doesn't
the kung
bother
fu
him.
and the MMA that he's doing in his sleep. Like, he stays asleep. He takes naps. He sleeps better than the other 3.
He sleeps like 12 hours every night.
Yeah. And so, like I said, kids are like snowflakes. They're all different. You all have to figure out, what works for you. Like, there is no cookie cutter parenting plan to just say, okay, this is it. You make this happen. No, you can try your best, and you'll find out that, trying everybody else's method, you're going to fail. You have to do what is best for you and the child.
Yeah.
So that's our thing for you today as we wrap this up, is that you can try things. It's best to try plenty of things to see what works best for you.
Right.
That don't expect to have the same situations as your best friend or how your parents did it. Excuse me. So anything you want to add before we wrap this up?
Okay, so I'll end with this. Also, this real quick story. So when Jacob and Allie, number 1 and 2, were little, I would get up and fix Bobby's lunch and breakfast, and then I would always lay back down. Well, as soon as they would hear the door close, him leaving for work, they would literally race to see who could get to my bed to snuggle the fastest. And at the time, I was a little annoyed by it because I'm like, oh, I could be getting 30 minutes more sleep, and here are two kids in my bed. Um, but now that I'm older and they're grown, and I kind of miss those days. So enjoy it, cherish it. Yeah, it's hard, it's tough, it's annoying at times, but they're only going to be little that one time. So snuggle those babies, love those babies while you can, because when they get teenagers, they don't want so much love anymore.
No, they want more money than love.
Yeah, right.
They want to know you love them by how much money you give them.
Yeah.
So uh, I encourage you to just be encouraged to try different things and make it work for you. The very best thing that helped us is, even though we were zombies and we were so worn out with the first child, that we were able to adapt and we were able to overcome. And it wasn't because we had books on how to make parenting work. We didn't have that.
Even if we had it, I would not have read them.
So we it was trial and error for a little while, but we made it, and our kids are doing great. They're starting to become responsible young adults. We're raising them to be responsible adults. We're not raising kids, we're raising adults. So we cherish the times when they're young. We cherish the times when they want to snuggle and they want mom and dad. And we're going to do our best to soak it up as long as we can. But when it's time to let them leave the nest, then we got to make sure that we've done everything to equip them and make sure we've done everything that we can to give them the best start and the best opportunity that they could have. So here we are, learning and growing as we go. Be encouraged and be blessed. Thanks for watching, y'all. Thanks for listening to our craziness. Y'all have a great evening. Anything from you?
Nope.
We love y'all. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.